Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Traveling Shaver. This week, as you might be able to tell, I am not traveling, but I'm actually home. It's been a fairly busy stay-at-home time around work, as it is resident season, so we get to train a lot of new doctors on using our product. So I figured I'd do a shave at home with what I normally use, or some of the products that I normally use when I'm at home. Now, one of those is a relatively new product that I am thoroughly enjoying, and that is CHEL from PAA. Absolutely fantastic synthetic cooling agent. I have put some on as a pre-shave, and I just kind of let that sit for a couple minutes while I worked up my lather. The soap that I'm using tonight is one that I don't talk about a lot on the various Facebook groups, but it is a company and an artisan I thoroughly enjoy. And that is Catie's Bubbles. This is in my top 5 bases. This is one of their 2-ounce containers. I traveled with this extensively when I first got it. As you can tell, I use this stuff a lot. This is a phenomenal soap. The scent is Purple Grapefruit, so it is literally lavender and grapefruit. It is phenomenal. Love this stuff. The brush one of them that I use quite a bit when I'm at home is the Soothsayer from Craving Shaving. This has a 26 mil Duro knot in there, and it's just absolutely phenomenally soft, yet plenty of backbone knot on here. Whipped up the lather in one of my bowls I use at home, the Captain's Choice copper bowl. Whipped up that lather beautifully in just a couple minutes worth of work. Sometimes I will put CHEL in the soap as I'm creating that lather. I did not tonight. Just used it as a pre-shave cooling agent. And it is awesome stuff. Now sometimes I will use the cube at home, also from PAA. A lot of that depends on which soap I'm using. Because I have some soaps, as I'm sure most of you do, that the performance is mediocre, shall we say, and it just needs a little extra oomph. And I would definitely say that Catie's Bubbles does not need that extra something to it. It is a phenomenal base. As I mentioned, one of my absolute favorites. And I've spoken with Chris, the artisan behind Catie's Bubbles, a couple of times. We've interacted on forums and whatnot. He's a pretty good guy there. I have no issues with Chris. He and I have similar tastes in razors. I know he's a huge fan of this scent as well. Kind of working a little bit more water in here. Man, now off the puck, the scent strength is not super strong, but you can definitely get that little lavender and grapefruit notes in there, and it is a beautiful, beautiful scent. My lighting is awful. So off the puck, its scent strength is okay, but it really opens up when you start to lather it. That's when it really becomes noticeable and just a beautiful fragrance. And now one of the razors I'm using that I've had kind of sitting in some hot water to warm it up is probably my absolute favorite razor. This is what I use most of the time when I'm home, and that is a Blackland Sabre. This is plate L2 or level 2 with a gem PTFE blade. I use the same blades when I travel as I do when I'm home. And the Sabre is just so smooth. Just an absolutely beautiful razor. Now, since I do normally highlight the cities where I am, and even though I'm not traveling, figured I might as well give you a little bit of information about the town where I currently live. I say currently, we've only been here since February, and we are planning on moving again next year, probably around June-ish. Now, the city where I live is Layton, Utah, which is the 9th largest by population city in the state. It has direct access to I-15 and I-89. It's kind of nestled right between both. So you can get to the airport, downtown Salt Lake, pretty much any location you would never need to go, or ever need to go, really, really easily. You can also hop on the train, go on Front Runner, down to Salt Lake or up to Ogden. Now, Layton, or Layton, if you are not from Utah, was founded in, let me get this right here, in about the 1850s as an offshoot of neighboring town of Catesville. But by the 1880s, the townsfolk were wanting to create their own city. They were tired of Catesville kind of neglecting them out here. And they finally became incorporated. They broke off in the, broke off in the 1850s, and they were finally incorporated into their own town in 1902. Yes, I do have notes on my mirror here. Even though I live here, I don't know all the history of the town. Let's see, it is also directly next to the Air Force Base, which is also a large contributing factor to the size of Layton and the general population living here. It is about 25 miles from Salt Lake and 15 miles from Ogden. And Layton is the kind of the economic hub of the Ogden general area. There's also a fairly large hospitality district that has over 1,000 hotel beds, as well as plenty of restaurants in the area as well. Movie theaters, all kinds of stuff to do. Now, in fact, when I was growing up, close to Ogden, rather than going to Ogden to go on dates and everything else, I'd pick up my date and we'd come out here to Layton to movies or restaurants or whatever, just because they had a nicer selection of places to eat and things to do. There are also plenty of parks and trailways you can get to Ogden Canyon really easily to go hiking, camping. Anything you want to do in the outdoors is real close as well. The population of Layton exploded in the 1940s when the Air Force Base here opened for operation. Oh, I love this razor. And the soap is just performing exceptionally well. Love Catie's bubbles. May have put a little bit too much CHEL on his pre-shave. That's okay, I just gotta mix it with my lather here. I really slathered it on before I started filming. Good stuff. Let's see. So there's also a conference center here in Layton as well. Plenty of parks. There's an amphitheater that has concerts during the summer. Now, because it is next to the Air Force Base, even though they do change their flight patterns quite frequently, you will hear the jets flying overhead. Which isn't too bad, unless you're on a conference call. And then it can be kind of annoying, just because depending on if they're directly overhead, they can be fairly loud. And if you're trying to lead a conference call at that time, you pretty much become unable to speak due to the volume of the jets overhead. And because of the Air Force Base and all the restaurants and hotels and everything else, traffic around here can be a little pain. As mentioned, you have I-15, which kind of splits the town in half. And you have Highway 89, which is right up by the mountains. Highway 89 does have stoplights and everything else, so traffic is impeded by that, but that gets really heavy around rush hour. And I-15 gets pretty heavy as well. And those are the two main corridors to go north and south, this far north. So that can be a little bit of a pain. But the town itself is relatively quiet outside of the jets. Plenty of things to do in this area. Just an absolutely wonderful town. The first house that we ever bought was actually here in Layton as well, just on the other side of the freeway. I love the scent of the soap, and this performs exceptionally well. I've not tried Catie's Bubbles creams, but I've heard they are really, really good also. But their soaps are phenomenal. Extremely slick. They're vegan based if that matters to you. Residual slickness is also fantastic. Now, if you haven't tried Catie's Bubbles directly, but if you have tried some of the West Coast shaving branded soaps, the jojoba creams, and not the duck fat version, the vegan jojoba. Those are also made by Catie's Bubbles. And they have the same base as what is you tonight, which is just, as I mentioned, fantastic. This was a soap that I traveled with quite a bit when I first started, simply because it has the 2-ounce container, which is extremely easy for travel. The soap performs in hard water, soft water, pretty much anything I've thrown at it. It's just phenomenal there. And the scent is beautiful. There's not a lot of scent notes to it, and it's lavender and grapefruit, but they are blended beautifully, where you can still get the little hints of lavender, hints of grapefruit, and it is phenomenal. Just a little cleanup here. Now, regretfully, if you have not tried Catie's Bubbles, Chris does not offer his soaps as samples. That's the one, not only downside, but I know some people like samples. They can see what they're like in the base, if they like the scents, or anything like that. But you can get them in a 2-ounce puck. And the 2-ounce pucks still last quite a long time. I've been working on this one for a little over a year. Granted, I don't use it every week, but it is pretty steady in my rotation. I'm not sure if you can hear that saber sing, but this razor's fantastic. If you like modern single-edged razors and you're looking for a premium one, I can definitely recommend this one. It is extremely smooth, very well built, and just a fantastic razor. The L2 is on the more aggressive side. It has a 0.9 mil blade gap. As opposed to the L1, which is 0.6. I prefer the 0.9. It's a little more forgiving as far as finding that angle and keeping the angle. But you can get a really good shave out of the level 1 blade as well. Just a little cleanup right here. A little bit more right there. It's my usual trouble spots. fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So we just rinse off, we'll do the cleanup off camera. So again, slickness on this is residual. Just get a little water on there and you can easily do any kind of cleanup you need to. Just that residual slickness. It is phenomenal stuff. So, the soap I used, Purple Grapefruit from Catie's Bubbles, definitely one of my top 5 bases. This stuff is fantastic. Chris is a good guy too. I enjoy Chris quite a bit. Lather up in my copper Captain Choice bowl. Plenty of lather left there to do a head shave if I were so inclined. Used my, make sure I get this the right way here, Craving Shaving Soothsayer with a 26mm Duro knot synthetic. Used some CHEL as a pre-shave to get that synthetic cooling down. And the razor was the Blackland Sabre on L2 with a gem PTFE blade that has a lot of shaves on it. It's still going really well. So that'll do it for me this evening. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys in a couple weeks when I'm traveling eventually.